I grew up in Israel. I look at this from the side, and I say like, again, what the hell is going on here? Everything that's happening right now in the US, on the streets, on the campuses, seeing Jews hiding their Magen David, taking their kippah off, being scared to don't go on the subway, you don't know what's gonna happen there. If this continues, all the Jews here at some point might even have to move to Israel. See right now what's going on in Israel, it's and we went into a confrontation, we're getting hit hard because of it. But if the situation came up and someone came up to me and said, are you Jewish? And someone started pushing me around.
So today we have Yohai Provisor and Shalom Jacobs again. What a pleasure.
What a duo.
Thank you for coming. And the reason we're doing this right now is because you have a very urgent message about anti-Semitism, especially in the US. So hopefully by the end of today's episode, the person listening will be able to take away something that they can actually do in some situation where they may be feeling anti-Semitism, or be able to prevent some sort of anti-Semitism growing in a situation and actually make a difference. So just first off, some background. Who are you and where are you coming from?
Yohai Provisor. I was born in 1992 in Jerusalem. I grew up in a place called Shiloh, which is located in the heart of Judea and Samaria. I grew up in that whole crazy reality over there from a very young age, going through what's called the Second Intifada, the Palestinian uprising between 2001, 2004. Going through some of the most horrible situations people can imagine, terrorist attacks on a daily basis, attending my friends' funerals from the age of 11, 12, and just having that reality of conflict and violence around me. I grew up having my father as the security chief of the yishuv. It's called in Hebrew the Rav Shatz. More like the sheriff of the yishuv, the person who comes and takes care of every kind of emergency that happens. And I grew up having that as my role model in my life, understanding how important it is to protect our people, how important it is to stand strong, stand proud, and to fight for our people. And that's the reality I grew up in.
Yochai, tell me a little bit more about your father, who I had the honor to meet about 2-3 months ago in his beautiful studio in Manhattan.
Yeah, my father, quite a story. My father was born in Philadelphia. In his teens, he made Aliyah to Israel. During that time, he joined the army, the paratroopers, and fought in the Lebanese war. After a very, very traumatic event, which he didn't know how to handle, he was offered to try and paint it, to draw it. And from there, he discovered his passion for painting, for art, and something that has existed with him his whole life. Later on, he dove very deep into the security world, all kinds of different positions, always having that passion to get back to art. And today, after serving over 30-something years as a security professional, he's gone back to his art, and I'm very, very proud of him. So, yeah.
So when I met his father a few months ago, it was in the art studio. It was an event organized by the One Israel Fund. And if you don't mind, I'm going to read you a text that his father just wrote to me a couple of days ago, because I think something that definitely connected me with Yochai and his father is the arts. I'm, in the singing, music, and Yochai, very musical, and his father in the arts, and his mom, he was just telling me about it also, and his siblings. But let me just see if I can find this.
There are certain things, by the way, for someone just watching or listening to this, maybe they can pick it up through the screen or through listening to it. But there are certain people that when they walk into a room, they have the purest energy, and it feels offensive to say the least bit dishonest thing, and you are definitely one of those people where you just exude honesty and keep it real.
I try and do my best.
It's very special to have you here.
Thank you, DJ. I appreciate that.
While Shalom was finding this, you spoke a little bit about the Second Intifada.
Yes.
So in my head right now, the Intifadas it's almost become a buzzword, and it's kind of just thrown around. Mm-hmm. And I know it happened, and I know there are uprisings, but what actually happened during the Intifadas?
The Intifada, the meaning, the translation of the word is uprising. This happens for multiple different situations. At times it was influenced, if I'm not mistaken, by the Oslo Accord. Sometimes it's something to do with Har HaBayit, the Temple Mount. And every time it's something else that could trigger it. There was even one that was triggered by some TikTok video starting to smack Jews in the middle of the street. And from there, it escalated. I forgot the name of the organization, something, the Lions. Not coming to my mind right now. But again, these things escalate very, very fast. And sometimes when these organizations find an opportunity to come and attack and create an uprising, they go for it because they know that once they get that attention, things just keep on rolling. And there's a lot of organizations that are just interested in putting Israel in flames, bringing it to that because they understand that escalation could bring again, maybe to the end of Israel. And on their end, having Arabs attacked and maybe even killed is something that is good for them. They see that, that once the world sees that, they feel sorry for them. And it's a win-win for them. So whatever can ignite an intifada and start that going, they go for it until the Israeli government, the IDF, security forces bring it down to a level where they're able to control it, and then until the next time. But this is something that happens every few years. The word intifada is very, very big. I can't say that anything was intifada since the second one that I grew up in, because nothing could compare to that, to suicide bombers on a daily basis, shootings on the road, Molotov cocktails, anything you could imagine. People were just walking around in fear of their lives for every moment, And of course, since there have been a few different uprisings to a certain extent, so it's the knife intifada where people being stabbed everywhere. And again, on the roads, shootings, even right now, there's stuff going on day to day, which most people don't even hear about, it doesn't even reach the news. Even Israelis don't hear about, at least Judea and Samaria, what's going on over there on a daily basis. There are attacks. There are people, there are infiltration attempts. There is a lot going on which people don't even hear about because, to be honest, a lot of people aren't even interested in hearing. They think it's their problem for living there. This is human life. People who just want to live in peace, who just want to live, have no bad intentions also towards the Arab people. I grew up there. I have Arab friends. I have people I care for, and we all just want to live. But in the end, these things come up and they create a situation that create even more division and hate between the people. And that is what a lot of the Intifada is trying to do, to create more division between Jews, Israelis, if it's right and left, and especially between Israelis and Arabs, to take that idea of peace, of being able to live together, the dream of a united whatever, just people living together in peace and in love and understanding. We all just want to live. And the idea behind it is to try and take that dream away, to create more division, more separation, more hate. And that's what stands behind it.
It's crazy to think, I believe around this table right now, we're probably three different, I wouldn't say generations, we're three different decades, right? I lived in Israel, as I think we spoke about in my last podcast, from 1994 to 1997, Intifada. And we were scared to go on the buses because of the bus bombs. That was the start of all the bus bombing. And so some of our parents, the ones that could afford it, would say, take taxis, don't go to buses, And I'm thinking, I'm looking around the table right now, 3 decades later, we have the same issues. Until last Thursday, nothing changed. Like you were just saying, like Yohai was just saying a few minutes ago. All the years we try, things get better, things get worse. We try to make peace. We try to live side by side, which is obviously our goal and what we want. Now all of a sudden, boom, we get hit again. So I think right now we're living in an absolute incredible time that I don't think I haven't had time yet since last Thursday to digest and to understand what's actually going on. But I think this is the first time in our history and the history since probably, since the last World War, that we've really had this time to think really what is going on here. We're living through something so big that I don't think we can even, bring it down yet to equate what it is. Yeah. Just going back to, if you don't mind, I did find it. So Mark was texting me the other day.
Mark
father,
is your dad?
Yes.
Okay.
The incredible artist and the incredible human being who does so much for Israel's security. And Yochai is going to tell you a little bit more about it. So he's going back and forth, and he saw a couple of the clips that I put up on Instagram of Yochai. Just so you know, I met Yochai on Monday evening. I feel like his brother already, but we actually met on Monday evening, and I looked in his eyes. I said, this guy's a good one. I heard all that he's been doing. I realized he's Mark's son. He tells me he works with his dad. I'd heard enough. His dad is literally his whole life is dedicated to helping Israel, helping the security of Israel. The One Israel Fund and all the other organizations and the Yehuda and Shomron and all those other organizations that Yohai will tell us more about. He has an art studio on the east side of Manhattan, and One Israel Fund made a small little gathering. They invited me to be one of the attendees. And he showed us his art, and he was just telling us a little bit about what was going on. Yeah, this was about 2-3 months ago, and we're just talking about the war. We're talking about Israel, and what he does on a daily basis, and what the One Israel Fund is trying to do, for all the security and to help. So when Mark saw my post the other day, and he saw his son, he thanked me for posting and blah blah blah. He writes to me. I said, "Pleasure to meet your son. It's such an incredible man. Makes me so proud." I said, "I bet he does." I said, "I hope you're holding in, my friend." He writes to me, "Doing what I do, but now focus on security more instead of art." To me, that said it all. What Yochai was just saying a few minutes ago. All three of us here, we all have this passion. Yochai asked me, what do I do on a daily basis? I said, my real job is real estate. As we spoke last time, I started my real estate company in 2001, business, but we're all talking about it since October 7th. It's so hard. It's just to focus on your business, focus on what you want to do, focus on being just for yourself right now. When we see what Klal Yisrael, when we see what the Yehudim, what we see what our people needs right now, it needs us all to be involved. And when Mark wrote me this text, doing what I do, unfortunately focus on security now instead of my art, it just resonates so much. I said, you know what? In times in life, exactly like the song goes, right? I can't remember how the song goes, but yeah.
From Koheles.
Yeah, from Koheles. Yeah. But calls the man bayish, right? And there's a time for everything. And right now, art is where I would say your father, I'm sure, shines the most. But he knows right now it's not about where he shines the most. It's not about what he wants to do. It's about what he needs to do, what we're talking about in the taxi over here, what he needs to do for the people of Israel and for our brothers and sisters.
And it comes to a point almost where it becomes its own art form in the defense, and there's so much passion behind that it becomes art, I think. What surprised me the most about meeting you was anyone talking about the conflict, the war right now, it's always security in Israel. It's always the situation in Israel. And now you're coming in and you're all up in arms about anti-Semitism in the United States. What? Where did that come from? So what are you seeing in the US that you...
I'll explain where it comes from. I flew into the US to speak at this event in Texas called the Israel Summit. This event was a gathering of evangelicals, of Jews, from people from the US government, the Israeli government, all kinds of different officials from different organizations. They're all about helping Israel and focus a lot on Judea and Samaria. This event was canceled. First, the private venue, the reason it was canceled was because of threats from different anti-Zionist groups, Islamists coming to threaten, to attack and kill, and real bad threats. The FBI were involved, Texas Rangers. The levels of security that it took in order to have this event going got so expensive that the first private venue, they had to actually cancel it because it got too expensive. And then when they decided to move the event to a private organization's venue, also there were high threats. They have schools, kids' schools in the vicinity. And because these threats were so high to come and attack the premises over there, they also had to decide to cancel the event. And this is in Texas. Some of the toughest Americans, you could imagine people coming fully armed to these events. And even in that situation, that the event had to be canceled because these threats were so high. And that's, let's put the Zionist thing, okay? I can't think of any other event based about any other topic that would receive those amount of threats. So there's that part of it. And there's also, again, that comes to the same thing, the freedom of speech in America, But again, I'm going to take it to the Zionist part because that really pissed me off. How the hell did it come to that situation in Texas where they have to be scared from events, from anti-Zionists, from people having so much hate and no understanding that this gathering is around, again, building peace, trying to get things moving. And it just really pissed me off to see that it's coming to that. And again, with everything that's happening right now in the US, on the streets, in the campuses, seeing Jews hiding their Magen David, taking their kippah off, being scared to don't go on the subway, you don't know what's going to happen there. All kinds of different situations. I grew up in Israel. You don't have that reality. There's nothing to be scared of. When it comes, I look at this from the side, and I say like, again, what the hell is going on here? If Israelis, and whatever, Israelis, Jews, doesn't matter. But if this situation came up and someone came up to me and said, are you Jewish? And someone started pushing me around, not to be violent, but I would bash his head in, because you don't mess with us. Not with everything we've been through, not with everything we're going through right now. This is not the time to mess with us. And seeing that happening over here, seeing people hiding and being worried and being scared is something that makes me angry. And it makes me understand that something needs to change. The people need to start rising, standing up, and fighting with any means necessary. If it's through social media, if it's people have to do with something that's legal, or even physical. Because if you mess with us, you need to see that you don't want to go down that road. And it's something that we need to start standing up as Jews for ourselves. Because again, if this continues, all the Jews here at some point might even have to move to Israel. And I know a lot of people here don't really want that. So it's important to really stand up and stand strong to what's going on.
Israelis are moving here with a thick skin. Maybe they could handle the anti-Semitism.
Opa, that's what I'm.
Americans should go to Israel.
Okay, so again, let's collaborate. Let's work together. Each one that has.
We'll do a swap. We'll do a trade.
Sounds good to me.
Like I said, just to take it a step further, what you're saying, we're on an Uber over here, and like I said, I moved here in 1997, and great days for New York, great days for American Jews. This was, I'm not going to say the land of milk and honey or the land of milk and money, but it was good days for Jews here. But it was definitely good days for Jews here. Like we're talking about it before, wearing your kippah publicly in the subway. I didn't even think twice. Coming from Scotland, where I did think about it a lot. We used to go to school every day. My mom made us wear a baseball cap for obvious reasons. And then I came to Israel. I lived there for 3 years, and then in America, free to be a Jew, free to practice my religion, free to wear my kippah. And today we're coming over here in the Uber, and I wasn't worried because I had Yohai, and I mean that very seriously. I wasn't worried whatsoever. Like I said, coming over here in the Uber, and I'm really literally, we're talking about, some things we may talk about today and some topics, etc. And I'm thinking twice whether I'm speaking in Hebrew, whether I'm speaking in English. Not that the guy didn't know, but I wasn't sure if the guy was smirking. I wasn't sure if he was laughing. I wasn't sure if he's on the right. I'm not sure if he's, liberal, if he's conservative. I have no idea. But the whole fact that I'm even thinking this in America today, this is America, the land that we all live together, the people on the right, the people on the left, the liberal, conservative. And we all had a beautiful country, which we thought we had a beautiful country of everyone living together. And the whole fact that I have to think twice about, should I be discussing Israel? Should I be just discussing my thoughts on Israel right now? In the middle of a car service, an Uber, getting from one place to another in Manhattan is very worrying.
Some people might say, like, why are you so worried? Why are you so in your head? Because, like, I would assume from your perspective, you'd be in that Uber and you're like, I should talk about Israel because I should be proud. I shouldn't be hiding.
Good.
So why do you think people are, or why do you think you feel that?
Good. If you don't mind me answering very bluntly, like I meant what I said, being with someone like Yochai in the car.
Your Uber driver is never going to punch you. He's not going to.
I would never use the word never anymore because I don't know, we've heard some crazy stories over the last few years. So the word never, I don't use anymore when it comes to anti-Semitism. I don't think that exists anymore, the word never. But what you just asked, why? I'm definitely not equipped. I wish I look back. I wish I went to judo. I wish I went to all the things that a lot of my friends did do, self-defense and all those things. I was a more timid kid. I liked the arts. I liked football. I liked soccer. I wasn't into fighting and all that stuff. But looking back and I see, what we have to do with our children, and we have to, for my children, God willing, and my grandkids, like Yochai said, we don't have a choice. We have to know self-defense today. We do not have a choice, especially in the diaspora. In Israel, again, they're not given a choice anyway. They go to the army at 17 and everyone's trained and they're brought up in the street. They're brought up very different. But if you're asking me personally, in America and around the world today, we don't have a choice. We have to train this generation and the next generation, God willing, to be strong. And we can't just let, people just do whatever they want to us. And as my friend always says, Jewish blood is not cheap. But right now on the streets of America, sometimes you second guess it. What do they think of Jewish blood?
Maybe I'm misinterpreting this, but it sounds like the big point here is violence is kind of the answer. And the way I was brought up, it's like violence is never the answer. And even looking at what Israel's doing right now, this was 15 years in the making, where for 15 years, they weren't being violent. They were taking a more diplomatic approach. They were planning and outsmarting. So especially on the subway, and we're talking about New York, with most of these people, just a little thinking and letting it go is kind of like, you're not going to be here tomorrow. I'm going to be here tomorrow. And you're not a credible threat to me. So I'm just going to keep moving.
So I'm going to let Yochai give his answer on this, but I'm just going to just say one thing. I'm not saying violence is the answer whatsoever. That's not who I am. Like I said, I'm someone that, I love to always say that I try to go by my namesake, Shalom, obviously peace. And I try to bring as much as that as whatever I can in any aspects of my life to the best that I can. Far from perfect, but I try. But I think there's a big difference. What I was trying to get, the point I was getting at is self-defense. And self-defense and violence, I think, is two different things. I'm saying if we're not going to show that we have the tools and we're not going to show that we have the ability to fight back if God forbid we have to, then I think the violence just gets more and more and more. And they realize, who are we? We're weak people that always just sits by the side, lets everything go. But I'll let Yochai take that further.
And also,
I'd love to hear his answer on it.
If we can, because we have about 8 minutes now, sort of the same question, but with a twist, that also what should people be doing? Very practically, let's say that conference in Texas, what could have happened that would have prevented that? What can happen in New York that can prevent that from happening? And what are some of the patterns that you're seeing that can be avoided?
Okay. So I also believe that violence is not the answer. We live in the world, the animal world. And when an animal smells fear, it will attack. And the thing I think is most important here is not to show fear, not to put your head down, not to walk around and show that you're scared. But when someone looks at you in some way in an aggressive way, or comes at you, you look at them in the eye, smile, whatever, but you show confidence, you show strength. And if it comes to it, and if it comes to violence, the physical, I grew up in a reality that if someone attacks you, you make them regret it. And right now what's happening is that people are being attacked, Jews are being attacked, and the attackers are not regretting it. They're doing it again and again and again. And something needs to change. If it's the attitude, if it's the way we react, again, walking around in pride so they don't smell that fear coming from people. And you could be scared. It's not I've been in fights, it's a scary thing, okay? It's not always, and we're human in the end. But when you stand tall and proud and you show that you're tough and not a force to be messed with, that changes the way an attacker perceives you. And the same thing, we were talking about it with Texas, that this event was canceled shows weakness. Of course, it's out of fear and having to deal with the situation so people don't get hurt. But that just gives motivation to these people to continue doing what they're doing because they're showing that they're shutting us down. And the only way to continue into our future and to prevent that from happening again is to not allow that to happen. So you want to mess with us? Come try us in that way. And that's the way I was raised. And the reality that I was raised, where there are plenty of attackers around us, they know that this is not the type of person to mess with. And they know when they see that we're crazy, okay? That we're, again, that we could be as monstrous and as scary as they could imagine. Don't bring us to that point. And again, stand strong. That's the bottom line.
Where do you think the US is going if we stay on just this current trajectory?
I believe the US right now is going to a bad place. That it is allowed to attack people on the streets, violence, theft, all these things that are becoming accepted out of people trying to be, how would I put it? What would be a good word for it? It's like trying to be considering of other people, of their feelings. You know what? There's a good word for it in English. Sensitive, yeah. But again, being sensitive to certain, what is the word? Sensitive to certain, whatever. It's sensitive to certain kind of sensitivities. Yes, sensitive to a certain kind of sensitivities. But again, no, it's more sensitive to a certain population that just because their story, they're able to come and act in a certain way, which is just not, and not to enable that. Act like a person, act like a human being, and not to allow that to continue going. Don't shut down the freedom of speech. Unless, if it's for something real bad, but nothing bad is going on here. And they have in the States, whatever. They talk about a lot of pretty ridiculous things and nobody gets shut down. So I guess the bottom line is just not allow this to get out of control, because that's what's happening right now. By being sensitive, we're losing our humanity. We're forgetting how it is to be respectful towards each other, and to be able to listen to each other and to understand we're all humans here just trying to be good, trying to be our best. There are extremes, on each end. And I believe that in any situation, extreme is bad. You should never reach these situations, not on the right, not on the left. We're all people here, and we need to try and unite and find our way together to come to understanding, to have conversation and respect. And with that, I believe that we could come to a better world, a better peace, better America, better Israel. And I truly believe that.
So when I met Yohai the other night, on Monday night, and I only heard him speak for about 20 minutes, and it made a big impact on me. But I was just telling him a few minutes ago, the biggest impact was the ending of his speech. And he left us with a message. He said, Yachad l'nasech. Yachad l'nasech. And if we had to leave a message today, we had to leave with a message today for this podcast and for your listeners and everything, there's no question, if we're strong together, Hashem's on our side. Doesn't matter where you're from the right, from the left, from the Dati, from the Chilani, from the US, from Israel. If we're together and we have each other's back, it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Amen. I would like to throw in actually what I do. I think it's important just to put that in, okay? So what I do on my day-to-day, I work as the director of security projects for an organization called One Israel Fund, which the whole idea behind what we do is to secure and protect lives in Israel, in Judea and Samaria, in the Gaza envelope. And my day-to-day is going between working with the security apparatus over there to try and understand what can we do to better protect the people living there. And my whole involvement is about protecting people and saving lives and it's all, of course, done on the defensive side. We don't work in anything that has to do offensive, but it's just providing people what they need in order to properly protect themselves. And I think the same goes here. What we could give here to people, to understand how to protect themselves, how to be safe, how to be confident, and how to stand tall and go through life without fear. And that's also what I'm here to do now, is to come and speak to people, and if I can, give them a certain level of inspiration and pride in their Jewish identity, to stand strong, to stand proud, and go forward with emunah, with faith.
To take one or two specific examples, if let's say I'm on the subway tonight and I'm talking with someone about Israel, and then someone comes over and they say something about Israel. What do you think is the proper response to that without being confrontational, with de-escalating it? How would you approach it?
Says, let's have a serious talk about it. You want to talk? But talk, listen. Listen to what I have to say. And just to have that ability to have a conversation instead of the whole what's become of cancel culture, not being able to listen to each other. Tell me, why do you hate Israel? And listen to what I'm saying back. Nobody has the intention here, to lie to each other. It's what we are fed, different agendas, different information. And let's have a conversation. Most people, yeah, definitely. Most people are scared of escalation. And to be honest, I personally am not looking, I'm on the subway, I'm trying to get home. Like, I personally am not always looking for that situation. And I don't know if in every case, it has to be that. But if you have that power inside you to come and have that talk, and at least not to look down, not to look in fear and being scared of it, that is the first step. But not just try and get away.
I also feel, I think there's so many people, on the flip side of this, so many, they say righteous non-Jews, and people in the world that actually have our back, that have our side, and we see that. And there's no question, I think, if we have a way, like Yohai is doing, or tried to do in Texas a few weeks ago, to get to those people, to have those conversations. I said, just even through my work, my real estate work, and thank God, we travel a lot throughout the country. And so many of my managers, sometimes I'm scared these days whether to broach it, the subject, open the subject up, don't open the subject up. A lot of times they'll say to me, how are your people in Israel? How's your family? More people than I think, by the way, especially in places like Texas, North Carolina, the good states. But the bottom line is I think if you can have those open conversations and tell them the way you feel, and them actually realizing they're relating to somebody who they've known for many years, who just wants to live a peaceful, regular life in the USA or anywhere else around the world, and they're able to actually then go to the golf club or wherever they do at the weekend and tell their friends, by the way, one of my very good clients or one of my very good friends is this Jewish guy in New York or wherever he is. And by the way, this is their feelings and this is what they feel needs to be done. And there is another side to this whole story. I think what we were just talking about in the car before a little bit is that I think doing it in a big manner is obviously the best way. Everything big, right, is obviously always big. We're on this wonderful, big, huge podcast, and thank you again for having us. But all jokes aside, sometimes we're just talking about it is the personal message, is speaking on the one-on-one with somebody. And that person obviously trickles to the next person, it trickles to the next person. And I think today we have to do a lot of that, both between us, as Jewish people, as a nation, just being able to talk, like Yochai was saying, and interact and be together, regardless of your background, regardless of your belief system, regardless of who you vote for. I mean, the whole fact that I'm even saying this, regardless of who we vote for, again, I'm a little bit older than you guys. I'm not that old, I don't think. But all jokes aside, this wasn't a discussion before 10 years ago. I don't think, you played soccer, you played sports, you went to the gym. Nobody cared who you voted for. And if they did, they laughed at you. It was a laughing. You're voting for him? Yeah, I'm voting for him. He's an idiot. And that was it. At the end of the conversation, you still went to the same birthday parties. You still went to the same weddings. You still had the same group of friends. I don't have to tell you, that's not the case today. I don't think it's not the case here and not the case in Israel. The way we've become so divided, both as a people and a world, is just outrageous. It's scary. And I think, if anything, that we have to be able to bring that home today is, like I said, connect with one person, connect with whoever we can, and try and get the message. And hopefully that will, transpire from one to the other.
And just to put it in a bit of a bigger picture, what do you think the world or America looks like when we do have more of those conversations? When instead of, because I'm looking at this from a risk-reward kind of equation. If someone's on the subway, before this conversation, the risk was I get severely injured from getting into some sort of fight or attacked by someone. The reward is like maybe stand up for my pride a little bit. There wasn't much of a reward there. Now, what are you saying the potential upside is here? If I talk to that person, someone else talks to this person, I talk to this other person, what's the big upside here that makes it worth that pretty high risk?
In the end, as you said, it is part of spreading the truth and having that capability to have that conversation. And there is a risk at it. But I do believe that in the end, it's a risk worth taking that we need, again. If we allow that to happen, to continue happening, it will get worse and worse and worse. And sometimes a certain level of confrontation is needed in order to start getting to a sort of a solution. You see right now what's going on in Israel, it's and we went into a confrontation. We're getting hit hard because of it. But that confrontation that we're taking right now, that big step that we took in putting ourselves in danger, is going to bring to a better world. And these things, the ripples continue. And by standing, by being tough and not being scared, so this person says, maybe not a people to mess with. Maybe by having a good conversation, hey, that guy's not that bad. And in the end, yes, there is risk. But in order for progress to happen, for revolution to happen in the world, I'm saying this for the Arabs in Gaza and for the Arabs, for the people of Iran, in order to create revolution, you need sacrifice. You need to take that risk. You need to make that move. And sometimes to put yourself in harm's way for a better world. And sometimes you can't see it right now with the near future. But in the end, these things have an effect. If it's by conversation, if it's by being tough, if it's all kinds of different ways. But once you let it pass over your head and do nothing, it just gets worse. So my bottom line with this is don't be scared of confrontation. Because in the end, that is the solution. Good confrontation for a better future. And again, to not live in fear. Because living in fear it's not living.
It's a tough pill to swallow, living in cushy America, but I definitely have a lot to think about now. So thank you for coming and spreading your message.
And pleasure to have you on again.
Thank you.
Thank
Such
you
a
for
pleasure
having
being
us.
here. Yochai, thanks for making the time. And guys, keep
Thank
doing
you.
what you're doing. You're doing such a great job.
Thank you.